29 podcast.
He all went David Ruffin.
Squared.
Did he go David Ruffin on y'all?
Yeah, man.
He did. I ain't coming to see you, Otis. All right, and 5, 4, 3, 2. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the After 29 podcast. This is episode 4. Is half good enough? I'm Vincent Dunstan, a.k.a. Minister V. Let's go.
Clayton Foster, big shoulder brother in the building.
Mazia Boone, happy to be here.
Oh, snap.
Terrell Pollock, happy to be here with my wife.
And I'm Tish Pollock.
All right, guys, let's talk to God. Eternal God, our Father, we come to you on this Friday evening, Lord, to give your name honor, glory, and praise, Lord. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to assemble under your name, Lord. Lord, we also thank you for just allowing us to just discuss those topics that are near and dear to our hearts, Lord. We ask that you will bless this podcast, bless our brotherhood, Lord, and just continue to strengthen us, Lord. Continue to feed us those topics, Lord, that are important to us and our community, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, let's get it going. Is half good enough for all you dirty thinkers? We are not talking about what y'all think. We're talking about because half is never good in that case.
So, thing.
So anyway, let's go ahead and move off of that real quickly. So is half good enough? So the topic came about, actually it was a conversation that I came across on Facebook, and this is a very popular conversation that we have all probably discussed or seen at some point in time, and this is about how couples pretty much how they divide the bills in the house, or the financials in the house, whether they are married or not. There's some things out there that people come up and say in some relationships that men should pay all the bills. Then there are some that says we should split 50-50. And I have heard this from some of the ladies that say that if a man is if I'm splitting bills with a man, he's not my man, he's my roommate. So there's all these different arguments about, and there's different opinions about, how bills and things like that should be split. So we're going to jump right in there. And one of the, so I really jump right to it, to the question, what are your thoughts on, how a man and a woman should split bills in the household? And before we jump in there, we have a husband and wife here on the podcast right. So I'm going to let them start us off on their thoughts and, and maybe what works for them. And then we'll jump in there with our opinions, afterwards, because Clay and I, for the most part, we are single and unattached. Mazio is Malcolm. Mazio's not Malcolm. He's he's married. He was Malcolm a few episodes ago. Look, I told you I'm getting old. All right, but no. So he and Terrell are married men. So I want to know y'all's take on that, and then, like I said, then we'll jump in with ours. So Terrell and Tish, y'all start us off.
Okay. Well, Terrell and I, before we moved in together, before we got married, we had this conversation, knowing we're pretty upfront and honest about what we make and how much money we contribute. We realized that we were spending, before we moved in together, we were spending almost every day together, and we had 2 homes. Spending over $2,000 to maintain 2 homes, which is ridiculous when you are with each other every day.
Right.
So we had the conversation of how are we going to do this? How are we going to split from there? I know my income. He knows his income. We came together and had that conversation. So for us, we had to do what works for us.
Right. I
am not one of those women, and I'm sorry, ladies out there, I'm not going to be with y'all when you say men need to pay for everything. The cost of living in Raleigh is ridiculous. We looking at daycare costs right now for our daughter. It costs a mortgage, car payments, rent or mortgage, everything is just way too expensive. And unless you make over $200,000, it's hard to afford everything by yourself.
Right.
It's just, honestly, you're not going to get any subsidies living together or anything else. So we came up with a solution that worked for us, of bills that I pay and bills that he pay, and then kind of splitting certain things up that way. So like our rent is X, so I'm gonna pay at this portion, they pay this portion. It's not 50-50,
right,
but it fits with us, so we don't have that same burden. So we make sure that we both, out of our checks, still have an ample amount of money that we can use towards saving, because we're trying to buy a house,
right,
paying X down our debts, which we were able to pay down debts, or just building wealth together.
Right.
So we did what works for us. I know for a fact that there's no way with me making what I make, I'm not going to tell him to pay for everything.
Right.
Because I make pretty good money, and it's not feasible to me. But.
Right.
Yeah, I just felt like, one of the things was we have to be upfront in our relationships nowadays. Me and Tish, we have a very good communications system. We will have those uncomfortable conversations as far as money, like in any kind of like major purchases or anything where we're gonna spend a pretty good amount of money. We come to each other and like, hey, this is what I got going on. Or if one of us is short, or we'll come to each other and be like, hey, we'll handle it, or I'll handle it. I got extra here, so I'll handle it that way. I think it's very important. Whatever side you're on, you got to have that conversation with your significant other
spouse,
if you
whatever.
want to be with them for an extended period of time, like marriage or anything.
Right.
But you have to have that conversation early, so you know what the expectations are, and be truthful about those expectations. Because if you say this one day, I don't mind spending 50-50, but then you get into marriage and you be like, well, I want you to pay everything.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to cause a lot of problems in your relationship.
So, as a married couple, do you think that maybe part of the problem is that sometimes people get into these relationships, they're with somebody that they like, they really want to be with, but they really don't have this conversation about money, and it's pretty much an afterthought until you have to have that conversation.
Yep.
Because now we are about to move in together, and now we have to share bills, and now lo and behold, you're getting hit with a surprise because like, yo, she don't want to pay nothing, or if it's vice versa, like he don't want to pay anything just because I make more money. Do you think that part of that problem is that because people really avoid having those conversations initially?
Yes, I think people are afraid to have those conversations because you don't want that person not to like you. You want to make sure that everything kind of runs smoothly.
Right.
But the problem is if you keep not having the difficult conversations, one, you probably shouldn't be together because
Right.
life difficulties happen. I personally, like what happened to me in September, I went blind for an entire month. I couldn't see, I couldn't work. So
Right.
he had to take care of everything. And I still had my income coming in, but he had to take care of our kids. He had to get everybody everywhere. He had to drive me everywhere and everything from that standpoint. So if you don't have those conversations earlier, how do you know when something bad happens that someone actually has your back?
Right. And that's a good point to bring up because, like you just said, if something happens, I mean, you're good until something happens, and you assume that, because we're together, like, I know you got me, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of couples out there that probably don't know until it's like, it's crunch time now, so, but that's a good point, especially like on splitting bills, Mazio, I want you to, you're also married as well. Talk about like your thoughts on how, man and a woman should split bills, and then, follow up with, some methods that work for you. And that's not to say that it works for everybody because it's per couple, so talk on that.
And kind of going back to what Tish said earlier when we were talking, I mean, which it makes perfect sense. Like every couple is not built the same way or whatever. So what may work for them may not work for me and my wife and my household or whatnot. But I mean, if it works for them, that's awesome. So,
right.
But for me, my wife and I, we split things like 50-50. We get the total sum divided by 2, and then we go with that. I mean, we do it that way. So, and I mean, it's worked for us. I mean, throughout the years, we talked about it when we were dating and when we got engaged and everything like that. Because no person wants to be blindsided. Once like you get married and it's like, okay, well, I want you to take care of all the bills. The man's gonna be like, oh, what? I mean, that's not what we agreed on. We never talked about it.
Well, you didn't agree to it because you never talked about it.
Right. So he's gonna be blindsided. No one wants to be blindsided. No one wants to feel like caught off guard or feel dumb or anything like that, or be dumbfounded or whatever. But but yeah, I mean, that's worked for us, and I mean, we just constantly continue to go with that system, and you got to do it with you got to go with what works. If it works for you, then continue to do that. Don't try to change it up and then follow a system, and the next thing that system doesn't work for you or whatnot. So I mean, it's worked for us for 10 plus years. So we're gonna continue to do that. So.
All right. So Clay, so as you get ready to jump in there, like I said, like myself, you're a single man. Does that play a part in? Is that determined based on the woman that you're with, or is that just Or do you determine that, like, this is just how I am, period, no matter who I'm going to be with? Like, I need to find somebody that's going to, or that may be in agreement with the way I do it, or is that negotiable with you?
I think it's situational because, like my earlier 20s when I worked like retail jobs and stuff like that, I didn't make a lot of money.
Right.
And I was with a girl who made more money than me. She still didn't make a lot of money, but she made more than I did at the time.
Right.
So she paid more of the bills than I did because I didn't make that much money.
Right.
But then, as I got older, then I got into sales, I made more money. And, at the time we would split it, relative to what we made. Not necessarily 50-50. It's just who made more. It makes more sense. Who made more will have to pay the heavier bills because that means it's still less coming out of your check because somebody who's making less and paying all the bills, it just doesn't mathematically make sense. You're over here struggling and she over here just living good. You living out. You ain't paying nothing to you. So I think it's situational based on like what you make and where you are in your life. And I think you still have to have the open conversation with the person to figure it out because you can't just let it fly because nothing's going to get handled. Right. So I really think it's truly situational and based on the person that you're with. Because I mean, if a woman wants a dude to pay all the bills, that's cool. If you can find a dude, you can snag a dude that's willing to do that and he's cool with doing that. That's fine. It's fine for you to want that. And I think, like for dudes, like if you want a woman who's going to like pay part of the bills, that's cool too. Like whatever is going to work for y'all is going to work for y'all. You just have to discuss and have a conversation with that person. If both of y'all on board, it's fine. Like I think a lot of people try to like keep up with like what people saying on social media, or what people told them that they should be looking for, what a man should do. It just depends on what's going to keep y'all two happy at the end of the day because y'all two got to deal with the bills with each other.
Not Facebook, not your home.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times we get caught up in what other people are saying in social media, BS and stuff like that. You just got to find out what works for you and what works for your current situation because it's life. It's gonna change along the way. It's not always gonna be the same because like you could easily like lose your job if you're working for someone. You can easily lose your job and that situation's changed. And if you haven't had that conversation with the person that you're with, like beforehand, like because we know that life could change easily. Look at the pandemic, all the people that lost their jobs. Like if you didn't have a conversation with that person before all that stuff happened, I'm pretty sure there's people that like, oh yeah, I thought she had my back and just dipped out, or vice versa. I thought he was like had my back and then now I can't pay these having he dipped on me. So it's important to have an understanding with who you're with and what the game plan is into the future.
Right. I definitely agree there, especially like with the social media thing, because I do think with some people, and I'm like I said, and I'm not calling anybody specifically out, but I have seen instances where some people base their entire belief on like how you split bills. Yeah. Based on what they see on social media. And I'm like, you cannot live your life and make choices based on the things you saw on social media. It's popular on Facebook, but you really can't go out here and try to live that. Like some women saying, oh, well, if a man doesn't take me out on a $200 date, it wasn't really a date. I'm like, that sounds good in a Facebook status. But in practicality, no one's taking you out on a $200 date every single time. Right. And
especially if you ain't fine. Yeah.
But it's just not practical. Can I take a woman out on a $200 date? Absolutely. Can I do it more than once in a month? Absolutely. Is it practical? No. Even if I have the money to spare, it's still not practical because I'm a man who likes to, spend my money with common sense. Now I do splurge every now and then, like everybody does. You have your niches that the things where you like to spend your money, but it's all done in common sense. When you hit a certain age. As far as how men and women split bills and things like that, I agree to an extent that it is situational, as Clay said. Like it really just depends on the circumstances between you and that woman. But for the most part, it's not in my head because I know my life right now. So regardless of the woman that I'm with, that does not change my ability. Whether she makes more or whether I make more, I know right now I am not in a position to pay all the bills. I can sustain that for myself right now because I don't have the biggest house. I don't have, a big truck and things like that. I'm not paying a light bill based on, a 5-person occupancy in my house. It's all based on me. So I'm able to take care of my expenses. And of course I can do more than that. But if it comes down to a relationship, unless I'm really making money like that, I don't really see me to even consider that. Like, if I met a woman that says, well, I think you should pay all the bills, and I'm like, I think you should date another brother, quite frankly, but just being practical, because I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm willing to do. And like I said, right now, my whole mindset is building an empire. And building an empire takes more than one person. No empire was built by one person in this world, so I'm all about building, wealth, familial wealth, generational wealth, and things like that. And I know that I can't do that on my own. As far as how things are split in a relationship, I totally believe in proportion. As Clay said, like, if she makes more, I make more. I believe in carrying an equal burden in the house. I should not be... So my thoughts on like the 50-50 thing, like I said, if it works for you, it works for you. Right. My thoughts on 50-50, if I make $80,000 a year and she makes 40, but yet our bills in the house total up to $3,000, right? I'm spending $1,500, on bills. I make $80,000 a year, which means I'm probably bringing home after taxes. I'm probably bringing home close to $3,000 a month, or probably more. I'm not doing the math right now in my head. Yeah.
Huh? It's definitely more than $3,000.
Well, no, yeah, I know. It's about 45. Yeah, it's about 45 a month. After taxes. Now I can easily spend $1,500, but for somebody who's making $40,000 a year, she's maybe bringing home a little over $2,500 a month. $1,500 to her is going to leave her pretty much broke. That's $250 a week after all bills are said and done. So, to me, proportionate, carry an equal burden, not carry an equal bill. Because as Tish was saying earlier, I want my spouse to be able to have some spending money as well, the same as me. And then at the end of the day, especially like if we're married, listen, it's our money at the end of the day. My portion might be in my account, yours is in your account, but at the end of the day, it's our money. So even when that comes to like purchases, not just spending bills, like I said, I believe in sharing an equal burden. Like I said, not so much, the whole, one pay more or this and that. Like I said, and like I was explaining to you guys earlier, in my previous relationship, I think it was like a 60-40 or like a 70-30 ratio. And we literally split bills like that. And she felt the burden of the bills, but she felt the same burden that I did. And she had money left over. It might not have been the same amount of money as I had, left over, because I made significantly more. So of course I was going to have a little bit more money left over than she did. But percentage wise, we had about the same amount of money left over, after bills were paid. And she was still able to do things with her money that she needed to do the same way she did before she met me, with the same proportion of money for bills. Now, me, in a sense, being a traditional man, I did, when I weighed it out how much it was, I did up it. So I did pay 70% of the bills in the house, and she paid 30 or whatever. And so that was partly based on her income, but it was also based on the fact that, yes, as a man of the house, I don't mind carrying part of that burden. But as far as paying 100% of that so she can go get her nails done and things like that, no, I don't see how we can maintain a home properly, like that. But like I said, if it works for you, do you, if it works for your house. Now, speaking of men who pay all the bills in the house, do you think that if a man agrees to pay all the bills in the house, do you think that he'll grow wary of that after a while?
I think after a while, if you pay for everything, because I've been a woman, not my relationship, that paid most of the bills before, you get to the point where it's like, I don't like you, because I have to do everything for everybody and then forever from there. So in my younger years, I did that, and I hated it with a passion. Right. And I was just like, you look at that person like, okay, well, because it was me, it's like I date men, so I'm like, you look less of the man, because I'm like, you know what, you can't even sustain yourself. Why am I dating you? And that just like pretty much ended the relationship, because I was like, you can't take care of you. But to me, I think men that do pay, or women, or anybody who pays all, after a while will become a burden on them mentally as well. But I think there's also a side of, if they're paying everything here, what is the other person doing? Right. So if they're not financially contributing, are they taking the burden somewhere else? Are they making sure that the house is well taken care of? Are you making sure the kids are taken care of? Are you making sure that the other person's taken care of? Like, what is it that you're doing in order? It doesn't have to be, monetary to make sure that the rest of the burden isn't filled.
Right.
That's my thing. It's like if you're a household that wants one person to do all the finances, then what's your half? What are you contributing? Because in every relationship, everybody contributes something. Otherwise, why are you here?
Right. And that is an interesting point before we move on, or before you guys chime in with the fact that she brought up, like, it's one thing if you decide that, like, hey, I'm going to pay all the bills or whatever, but that person can sustain themselves. It's a different ballpark when you're doing something like that. Like, you do tend to lose interest a lot quicker. You're like, I'm doing all of this. Now I don't mind doing it because clearly I agreed to it, else I wouldn't be doing it anyway. But you can't even take care of you,
right.
So I don't feel like I'm just carrying a burden. Like, I almost feel like a caretaker now because I'm taking.
Child.
Yeah, it's like I'm taking care. Like, you're independent at this point because you can't even take care of you. It's one thing if I'm paying most or all the bills, but yet you can sustain yourself because that lets me know you do have something to add here. But when you can't even take care of your damn self, like, I'm questioning, like, what can you do? Okay, clearly monetary is not it, but what else can you do? Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of a home.
Right.
Yeah.
So. I feel, and I definitely agree with 100% what you were saying. I feel like eventually it's going to cause resentment, and eventually, I guess, one of the other person will feel like bitter and whatnot because they're like, I'm taking care of everything, but if you're not like holding up your end, like, then, like you said, why are you even here? I feel like if it works for you, if you're a man and you're able to provide like the bills and whatnot, you need to make sure that you have a woman that has the mentality to take care of like the house or the kids or whatever. Because if not, and she can't hold up her end, then I mean, you don't want to be with that. So
Tish has some great points.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know if a man would necessarily grow weary of that. I mean, I've done it before where I had to pay all the bills, but the person I was with was going into like building their own business, so they were working towards financial freedom or whatever. And I didn't mind. I didn't get weary of it or anything like that because I agreed to it. It's what I had to do at the time. Because again, like I said, it's all about the situation at hand. Like you roll with the punches. The person I'm with, I signed up for this. I supported what you're doing, the transition that you're in, and it's cool. And at the time, I made enough money to be able to do that. So I think it depends on the guy, and it depends on what the person is also rendering to the relationship too. So I think if you want a man who pays all the bills, you have to understand the trade-offs that come with that. I think that's what a lot of people don't always understand is life is all about trade-offs.
Right.
Like if you want a certain thing, there's going to be certain things that you have to give up to get that certain thing, and certain things you're going to have to do to get that certain thing. So I think if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, the dude will get tired of you. So it just
not
depends
so much
on
paying the bills,
right. It depends on what he wants.
The fact that he's give.
Like if you sit there and you said, "Oh, if Terrell pays all the bills and I have to ask him for allowance," I think the heck not.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm not a child.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
That's another part of it too. So if you agree to pay all the bills, you can't. Well, I think it's different for men and women though, because as a man, like if you're paying all the bills, you can't really just like hang that over her head. Well, I'm paying all these bills, and like she got to like beg you for money. I think you still should go into it like I agree to pay all these bills, and it's still both our money. But I think if it's a man in that situation, like
I feel like our pride would kind of.
I don't even think it's our pride. It's just like Tish said, when she was paying all the bills, she looked down on him because he's not sustaining himself.
Well, no,
I think men don't often look at it that way, but I think men do sometimes like try to throw it in women's faces. Right. But I think it's a little tougher for a man being in that situation than a woman having a man pay all the bills. I think it's tougher. Maybe it's just me because like most men that I know, they don't feel right if they're not working and they're not contributing or not trying to do something. Yeah. But there are some dudes that like just don't want to do nothing, and then the woman take care of them. I think men will look down more on in that situation than in women. Right.
And I don't know if it's like considered as pride or whatnot, but I do feel some men would have a problem like going to their women asking like, hey, I don't have anything, like can you hook me up or anything like that. But yeah, and it's like what Tish said. I mean, I feel like a man and a woman want to have for a man, they want to have someone that's on the same level as them or whatnot. You don't want to have someone that's not wanting to progress or do things or whatever. And same thing for a woman, for what Tish said, the guy that she was paying the bills and everything like that. He wasn't doing nothing. He wasn't able to take care of himself. Eventually you'll get burnt out from that, and you want to have someone on that same level as you.
I agree, because when I started to date, when I wanted to date for marriage, when I got out my playgirl phase, and I wanted to date for actual marriage. It was not just financially. My standards were that I needed a man that could have his own.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it didn't matter exactly how much he had. Mm-hmm. I had a place of my own. I wanted him to have a place of my own. Right. I had a car of my own. I wanted to have a car of my own. I had a job. I wanted to have a job. I wanted to make sure that if I wasn't there, he was good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And if I'm there, it's even better, because now we have double. When we realize how much we looking at our W-2s and trying to figure out we filing together or not. That's when you realize how much you actually have together, it's so much more than we desire. So
we're looking for stability. I think mostly in relationships, it's more or less we get on the money as far as splitting it, but I've seen it happened to friends of mine where he was, paying most of it, but it was the wife was in and out of jobs, and that was affecting him as well.
Yeah, because at one moment you're getting a little help, and then the next moment now you got to carry it all.
So I think a lot of it too is the stability of the relationship. Just knowing that I'm not gonna knowingly or willingly put her in a predicament where she has to support the whole family, and knowing that I can care for myself, and she knows that she can care for herself.
Most guys, most guys don't feel right letting their woman just do everything and just chill.
But on some real, if you decided to quit your job and go back to school and finish your degree, I'd hold it down.
That's
while
different.
you do that.
That's a means to an end.
But see, that's
a temporary situation.
But see, that's different. That's not willingly getting yourself fired.
No.
And
or quitting a job because I want you
without
to
a backup plan of any. And then first off, that's something that needs to be discussed, because you don't come to me and say, "Oh, I quit my job. I'm going back to school." I'm like, I hope you're moving back in with your mother too, because we didn't agree on that.
That happened.
The funny thing is, we know someone that kind of is going through that situation. I'm not going to put that person's name out there. But yeah,
I can't read lips, bro. I suck at that junk.
Anyway,
I always suck at that.
We know somebody that the guys taking care of all the bills and stuff like that, and eventually it caused a wedge in their marriage where somebody stepped out or whatnot, but we ain't gonna go.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those. Like I said, if I ever got to a place where I agreed to pay all the bills, like you guys said, it's all about a trade-off. I know going into this, because I agreed to and we discussed this, that yes, I'm going to take care of all the financials. Mm-hmm. What I don't agree to, and which will also be discussed, is the trade-off. Okay, fine, I'll pay all the bills because if that's what we agree on. Maybe I'm making enough money, or maybe my business is really taking off and I can afford to pay the mortgage, gas, electric, put clothes, take care of the kids, daycare, all of that off my income. Okay, but there's more to contributing to a relationship than just monetary, just monetary resources, because home still needs to be clean, bills still have to be paid. I can make the money, but I don't feel like, now that is me, I don't feel like I should make all the money and have to pay the bills. The least you can do is take the money that I made and take care of the home, and that's one of those trade-offs. Meals, will be cooked. Errands will be taken care of. That's not to say that. And now here's where a lot of men in these situations get it twisted, because they think because you went to work all day, that means you get to come home and do absolutely nothing. Negro, it's still your house, because it would be the same way if she worked. There's some men who go to work every day, their women go to work every day, but then he comes home and sit on his ass. Oh, well, she need to go in there and clean up, and she need to cook. I'm like, it's still your house too. And just because you make either all the money or most of the money, that does not negate the fact that you still have a responsibility to the home too. Now, in the case where maybe, like I said, a man or a woman is making all the money, the other person does have a responsibility to the home and to the relationship to make sure that, and I would say at least 75% of these household things are taken care of, for that other person. Now, that's part of the trade-off. Maybe your contribution is not monetary, but you can take some of my burden, and I ain't gonna say my burden because it's not my life. This is our life. So you can take some of the burden off our lives while I handle this portion, you handle that. But I think a lot of people let their egos get in the way and, I make the money, so I'm not doing nothing. Or I have noticed in this generation now, especially with a lot of these online, the ones that are talking about like, I'm not paying no bills, I'm not being with no man if I got to pay bills, or he's not my man, he's my roommate. These are the same ones that ask for the whole man to pay all the bills in the house, and all they want to do is go to brunch with their girls, get their nails and toes done, run out and go shopping, take girls trips and things like that. And then when that man gets home, like, he needs to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, but what the hell have you done? Right. Exactly. There has to be that trade-off at some point in time. So moving to the next point, there was something that came up that I did hear, and this was a conversation that I had with another young lady one time, and we were talking about in the biblical sense, especially like in a marriage. She, and what we got from that is that some women say that they will not submit to a man. They will not submit to a man who only pays half the bills. So my thoughts on that, my question to that is paying all the bills or being like the head provider, is that a prerequisite for submission in a relationship?
I don't think so. I don't think it's
not for us.
No.
But we're not for us because we're different. Like, he's pretty much the first man I've ever submitted to, but he's the first man I've ever felt truly comfortable with.
And it had nothing to do with his finances.
It had nothing to do with finances. It had nothing to do with that. It's mentally, you took care of my mind, body, and soul.
Right.
It's a whole different. Money is only a portion of life.
Right.
Money comes and goes. I've lost jobs. I've had them. I've been up. I've been down. But for someone to be actually to take care of my mind, that's a whole different level of, okay, I'm comfortable. I feel comfortable with you leading us. And I know that if I have some money, you're not going to go and squander it and go not lead us astray.
So it's not the amount, it's the responsibility.
It's the responsibility.
Right.
Like, can you really take care of us?
Right.
Our family. Like, are you really going to be there? And like, honestly, it's like our wedding anniversary is from on Monday, and we had a year of ups and downs of just so much stuff has happened with us.
Right.
And to the point where, like I was telling that I had went blind for a month. I knew at that moment, it was like if I could see it, I would have posted it for all those people on Facebook that are all looking for a man. I would be like, get you a man that will take care of you when you are down.
Right.
That that no matter what, he's got your household.
Yeah.
At that moment, if I didn't know at all, Terrell had our house.
Right.
We didn't know if I was going to regain my sight, but he had the home.
Right.
He made sure the kids got to where they got to go. He made sure they got fed. He made sure I got taken care of. He was taking care of my mom. Like, I knew for a moment that if something happened I could never see again, I'm good because I have a husband that's going to take care of me.
Right.
Money is not it.
Right.
You need everything else. Right. It's more than just money.
And that's the funny thing, because like I said, I was like in this conversation, and like I seen on like social media, there was a lot of them that says like, I just couldn't submit to a man like that, and it really boggled my mind that I was like, finances is the prerequisite to submission, not his mentality or not who the man is himself.
Ask the women what their credit score is.
And that's funny that you said that. Remember, we talked about that. We said all these women that ask for these things, and don't get it twisted. This is why we asked Tish to. This is why we asked Tish to participate with us, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't want a women bash. That's not it. We're trying to gain an understanding.
If you want something, I realized when I wanted a man, I needed to be what I am. So if you're not what you're asking for, why do you deserve it?
Exactly. That's the damn thing that we ask all the time. How can you ask for which that you cannot provide yourself?
If you sat there and got a 400 credit score and you want this 800 credit score man who can pay for everything. Why should you get that? Why should he take care of
You
your
don't want your
portfolio?
$100,000 in debt?
I'm just saying, there's a reason why he's where he's at financially, or the reason why she's where she's at financially, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, everybody who's on these pages, they're always asking for, oh, I want this and that. I'm like, you're not even half of that.
Right.
Exactly.
Get what you want. Be who you want, and I bet you attract what you want, and you'll get that man that is going to pay for all that because you can do what you're doing. So he's going to want to do that.
And I don't know. I'm left speechless because I just never had to explain
Facts,
that.
I mean.
Because we talk about that all the time about just men and women. You know, like I said, I don't want to bash women, but you know, men and women, having the audacity to require. Now, it's one thing to prefer. You're like, oh, I hope I can find somebody of this caliber, even though that's not me. But there are a lot of men and women out here who literally require attributes and characteristics about a potential mate, and they are not even half of those things. Like you said, they got a 400 credit score. They probably make under 30 grand a year. They don't have a car. They're sleeping on mama's couch, you know, and they ain't trying to get out there and do anything. But yet they want a man. They want a man with an 800 credit score. He's got to make six figures. He's got to have a nice car, have his own house, and he probably shouldn't have any kids. And they be having 4 kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
And that's what I always say. Like, you say you want this type of person. Are you the type of person that they want?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, and vice versa when it comes to men requiring things of women.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember when I was dating, men would be like, oh, I want a woman to have their nails and feet done all the time. I like to do mani and pedis all the time. I don't have the time all the time because I'm busy. And I was like, he asked me, do you do that? I'm like, I did, but I said, no. I said, are you paying for it? And he got mad, and he was like, well, I'm like, why are you going to require for something of me that you're not really even to contribute? Right. Don't worry about what I do with my body.
See, and that's another interesting point that we haven't thought about either. You know, like, you can require something, but
if you're
if she's willing to do it, but like, are you going to contribute
It's
to
all
it?
about them trade-offs, man.
Yeah.
Like,
It's all about-
and
it's like-
like-
and
and
that's
like
the
you
thing.
said,
He was like,
yeah.
oh, I don't think I should pay for that. I'm like, then don't require that of me.
yeah.
And that was the end of that conversation.
That's interesting. So now I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to get a little bit off topic because you know we like to be transparent here. Because now I did fall guilty of something like that, and I'm going to be completely transparent because like I really feel like I just got my toe stepped on in a good way because now it presents it in a new light because not that I required this of a woman, but like I was really into it. That's why you looking at me.
I ain't never heard this story, bro.
So what you do? So stop looking at me like that. I already feel guilty. You know? So, but one of the things, and don't get me wrong, this is it's still a preference of mine, but it does make me kind of like reevaluate that preference because I like women who like upkeep themselves in a nice way. Like y'all know, I like to dress.
I already know what you're talking about now.
I like to dress. I'm not that extravagant. No, not that extravagant. Unless we're going out or something like that. You know, my thing is match my fly. Right. I think that's what it is. Now, to Tish's point, and it kind of makes me reevaluate that. If that's something that I'm asking for, prefer, or even require, then what is my contribution to that? Like,
are you going to help her stay fly?
Either dress her,
Thank you, Tish.
or no, seriously, because it really opened my eyes to something like. Because I don't want to be that jackass out there like, oh, I need this, that, and the third. Because what if in her mind she's like, well, are you going to dress me? Are you going to buy my clothes? Are you going to buy my shoes? And things like that. I'm willing to do it for you, but what are you going to do to help me maintain that? So that's an eye opener, you know, into a lot of situations. We ask for things, but what the hell are we doing about it? Not because now, for me, like I said, guilty. Yes, I'm not gonna admit that. I like a woman to match my fly. I love to dress. When I walk out the door, I never go anywhere.
But you need to find somebody that's already like that and not make her into that. Because you got to think about it. When you start dating, everybody likes to put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I was like, when I met Terrell, I was on my third date that week, and I was like, "F it, I'm sick of men." But I guarantee, I said I would go. I said I would go because I had 2 horrible dates, and I wore. He told me, he said, he's like, I wore flip flops. I said, "This is me on a Tuesday." I said, after work, I'm done.
Jeans,
like
t-shirt, and flip flops.
And I was like, but that's me on a regular basis. I was like, if you can't handle me on a Tuesday, you're not gonna like me when I dress up and on a Saturday. Right. So you have to find a woman that is comfortable to always dress up. You need to see it like not for those little social media photos and everything else. If it's on a Tuesday and you meet her randomly for lunch and she's dressed fly, she's somebody who likes to be fly. There are plenty of women like that. Don't get the random Joe and Jane and try to get her to be fly. She don't want to be fly all the time.
Right.
That's not her.
Right.
So you can't mold people to what you want. You already got to find them at the mold that they already.
Stop looking at me like that, bro. I'm soaking it in.
I'm about to say, because for me, seeing her like that on our first,
saw the tissue.
like when I saw her on our first date, and I would say this, like I told Clayton after that, I said I think I met the one, and it wasn't because of the way she dressed. It was because of the person she was. She was comfortable in herself. That's what attracted me to her, because she was comfortable enough to be like, oh, okay, this is me. You like me for who I am.
If you don't, that's your personal problem.
Right. So to me, that was like, okay, cool, because this is who I am, you know, and that's what I was. That was what I was looking for. I'm looking for somebody that's real. I want somebody who's not going to sugarcoat stuff. I'm not, you know, this is who she is, and this is how we talk to each other. We don't hold anything back. So that was my whole thing. Because getting back to the point where we were talking about before, I've been in a relationship where it was. Because this is my second marriage. I got married. The week after that, it was, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to do something else. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. What do you mean?
Right. And now there's that uncertainty that you didn't discuss.
Right. I'm like, we didn't discuss this, and you just saying, can you put me on your insurance? What the? I'm just looking like,
we didn't discuss that.
We didn't discuss this.
I mean, though that's a natural thing to do, but the point is we didn't discuss it.
Yeah, we didn't discuss it, and I'm like, how are we doing the bills thing? And because I'm like, you know, my money is tight, you know, just going where we're going now, and I'm like, we're trying to maintain and get stuff done, and you're just making decisions about your livelihood. Without.
But do you think so? To go back to the point that we were talking about earlier, do you think part of that I want to I'm just going to be blunt, say that failure there in that marriage, especially on that portion, some of that belongs to you as well, because like you just said, we never discussed that. And like Tish said early in the beginning, if you don't discuss it, then how are you supposed to know how things are going to be handled when they come up?
Right. And so that's why it was more important for me, because I took pretty much a break after that, and to reevaluate. And I think there's a lot of people don't do that a lot. They just jump from relationship to relationship. I took a break to actually, you know, learn and see what I did wrong. And that was one of the things I was like, okay, I wasn't upfront with what if something happens, what's going to happen. So when I met Tish, you know, I was like, you know, hey, this is what we got going on. Can you, you know, we had those uncomfortable conversations. In the beginning, that way something we knew exactly what the expectations were for both of us, and we were comfortable with, you know, that. Yeah,
we're so comfortable that he can fingerprint on my phone to get into it. I don't care.
Mine too.
Well, don't get me wrong. No, and like even in my last relationship, like that, my silliness. I mean, when I'm single, whatever. But when I am in a relationship, like my ex, she had all of that because hell, it was her birthday, for goodness sake. Just because that I got so much other stuff that I'm considering now at this age that I am now. That silliness 52. There,
52, right?
Close. You know, that part of silliness is gone, so I don't have time for that. But in considering, like, you know, when we was talking about like the lifestyle of like people, like let's just say if a man pays all the bills, or how you split that. You know, do you think, let's just say in an instance where man pays all the bills, so we already know what that trade-off should look like. Do you think today's women are literally
equipped to do that?
Are equipped, or can they really truly handle the lifestyle that they're truly asking for? Because now a smart man is going to say, "Sure, I'll pay all the bills," but that means you're going to do X, Y, Z into the third. You know, you're going to do these things. Do you think today's women, I'm talking about just today's women, not women back in the 50s, because they were raised on that, like, you know, you find your good husband, he provides, he provides, you know, the resources, you take the resources and you make it into a home.
You multiply. There was
exactly. You know, and you know, when you think about it, women really contributed a lot to those homes. Right. Men went out and worked, and I'm not saying that that's all they did, but they went out, they worked, they brought the money home, but women took that dollar and she stretched it and she built an entire house out of it. Are today's women equipped, and can they handle that lifestyle that they're asking for?
I'll say, excuse me, it takes a special woman to be able to handle that type of lifestyle or whatnot. I mean, not every woman can, they can probably be all right for right now, but eventually in the long haul, I mean, I feel like maybe, eventually they'll probably, break down or whatever. And same thing for a man or whatever. It takes that special person to have that right mentality to be able to, like, make it through that. So like having someone to take care of everything, and, you provide, the stuff that you need to provide without, paying bills and stuff like that. So, I mean,
I'll say me as a woman of today's woman born in the 80s, I honestly could not handle it.
Right.
Even if we win the lottery and all that, I don't like the idea of having to ask anybody for anything as far as allowance, or a lot of people, they have these certain requirements of you must do X, Y, Z,
Right.
Yeah, I could take care of the home. I could do all of that. I'm capable. I do it while I work, but I honestly, me personally, I can't.
Right.
And a lot of the women today, I don't think they understand how to, half of these women don't even know how to cook.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I was thinking about. Like,
so
I think they want the lifestyle,
but they don't know how to be the lifestyle.
Exactly.
So it's like you don't know how to cook. I mean, the mamas back in the day could knit, they could sew, they could put things together. Like, they don't have the base. Grandmas are 30 years old and 40 years old, so it's not like the grandmas we had that are older. So it's like a lot of them, they just don't have that foundation to, like my mom said, like, they was picking peas and all that other stuff. I didn't do that. Right. But other people, like, they don't have that same foundation to take care of a home. And a lot of these women today have grown up in broken homes. This is another story. So they don't even know how a man acts in a home and how they grow from there. So they didn't grow up with a daddy, so they don't even know how that even works. Or they grew up with a whole warped world of what actually needs to be done. So you have all of these different society influences, and then we have social media that tells you you're supposed to live this way, and you got these women that are influencers, which I have no idea why they make money. That's a whole other story. But they have these people that are influencers that tell you what you need to do and how you should serve your husband, this and that. And then you have these other people, and also, even to go all the way around, God ain't even in the household like it was. Right. So that's no other thing. So I think a lot of the average today's women can't do it.
Right.
The ones with the sense of they know exactly, they were raised a certain way, and you'll know, especially y'all in the dating world will know the ones that were raised in homes that that understand what roles in men and women of traditional sense, they can do it. Right. But now most of them, they're all on that, butt implants and lips injections and everything else.
Because I see a lot of them that literally, and just the way they speak about it in like statuses on Facebook and things like that, or even just through conversations, there's a lot of them I think that have like this fantasy view on how it's supposed to be. Like, I want a man that makes all this money. I'm not going to spend, I'm not going to spend my money. He's going to spend all his. He's going to get my toes and my nails done. He's supposed to, do my upkeep for me, and he's supposed to pay for my trips. He's supposed to keep me, Louis'd out and prodded out and things like that. And I need to have a nice car. He needs to get my hair done. And I think these are some of the unrealistic expectations that they're bringing into that lifestyle, and that's why I agree. I don't think that they're even equipped for that, because when the reality sets in, unless you meet like a rapper or a basketball player, that lifestyle that you're looking for, it's just not practical. And you're going to have to contribute.
Right. Throw race into that.
And that's why I said that it takes and that's why I said it takes a special woman to be able to do that, or a special man to be able to sit back and do that. And the key word, like we said earlier, submit. Back in the day, the women knew they submitted to their husbands or whatnot, and they knew that, hey, I need to make sure I had the food, prepared, kids taken care of, homework done, this and that and the third, and they were able to take care of that because their previous generations taught them, hey, you need to submit to your husband. And like you said, the Bible.
I do think, even in a biblical sense, I do think submission to your husband should be earned. You don't just submit to a bum.
No, I understand, and I'm not saying
you don't just submit just because he's a man.
Right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Right. Keyword there is man.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that explains it all.
You submit to a man that is his taking care of his responsibility, pretty much. And the same thing for a woman. She takes care of his responsibility. Then you submit to that. But it's kind of like what you said earlier. And also for you, a woman wants like this. Now I want a man that makes $80,000 a year or whatnot, or I want him that be muscular or 5'10" and this and that and the third, and you want all these things, but in the end, like mentally, are you happy? So like for example, what Tish was saying, like she knew that she was good because mentally, Terrell satisfied everything that she wanted, like was able to take care of the home, the kids, everything like that. If you can find someone that is able to provide all those things, then you should be happy with that. Not if he doesn't make $80,000 a year, but if he's able to take care of those needs and make you feel at ease and that you feel secure, then I mean that's what you need to do.
If you don't mind me asking, Phil, do you think this is an issue within the black culture? Because I have friends of different races and different cultures. I have friends of Middle Eastern. I have friends that are white. I've got friends that are Chinese, everything, Asian. This is the only issue. It's black people that have this issue of how men and women should do certain things. My Middle Eastern friend, she makes about what I make too. Her husband makes double what we make. Mm-hmm. So they are $300,000 household.
Right.
She gives all her money to him, but she takes care of everything. So in her culture, they believe that they are there to basically live and satisfy the men in the household. And they take care of everything. They make sure the burden's from there. That's in her culture. Mm-hmm. So, but then I know a white person who does stay at home, but takes care of home and does everything else, and no longer works because got laid off for the pandemic, and basically. After not that, childcare expenses, they had a kid and everything else. The trade-off is equitable.
Right.
But then I know black people who sit there who make not that much, and you're $40,000 household or an $80,000 households combined, and you're thinking that he needs to pay all of this, but the bills equal his income. So you're asking this man to work way much overtime in order for to basically kill himself so you can follow your dreams.
Right.
So I'm just seeing that the issue is within our own culture of all of these false aspects of how we should behave within a relationship.
Right.
So can I ask you a question? Do you feel a lot of it is to blame because of social media, or
it's social media? I would even go back as far as slavery.
Right, because let me jump in on that real quick. So, because that right there was powerful because I have noticed that as well in other cultures, and why I do think it is more so a black issue, because I feel like even in our own homes, men and women, husband and wife, we're probably the only race, regardless of what the culture calls for, whether like in what would it, like Indian or Arab or something like that, she gives everything over to him. He takes that. He takes care of the financial. She takes care of the home. White, however they do it. We're the only race, and it's evident. Regardless of gender, we're the only race who are completely in competition with one another. Even inside our own homes, husbands are in competition with their wives and vice versa. So there is no natural submission. There is no natural cohesion, because black people, and I hate to say this because it's not all, but it is something that is very prevalent in our culture. We have to be doing better than the next instead of trying to build with the next.
Yeah.
And it's bad because it has gone so far as to, we're not just competing with with my black neighbor or with the black stranger. I'm also competing with the people in my very own family and in my very own household. And when you have that type of competition, you can't help but always fall short. Because instead of building with one another, y'all are competing against each other. You'll have a man saying, I make all the money, so I'm going to do this, that, and the third. Y'all are not mentally connected there to even grow together. Same thing with a woman, I'm going to keep all my money together. He needs to spend all his. You're holding each other back,
right. Yes,
Go ahead, Clay. I just thought that was really
Yeah,
interesting.
she has some valid points that I was thinking of before we got into it. She went ahead and got into them. It is something that you don't see often in other communities.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if it's just Western society, but you don't see that often in like other cultures. Like what we see, you know,
they're more culturally based.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think Eastern cultures are more traditional than us, and I think oftentimes in our culture they want the traditional benefits, but they don't want the traditional.
Don't want to put the work
jobs,
in.
the traditional the roles that come along with it. So I think, you know, I mean, it's cool if you want a man who pays all the bills. That's fine to want that, but you have to understand what it takes to get that. What that man's going to require, or that woman's going to require for you to say you want this from a person. You have to understand what that comes with. And the issues, I don't know if it's just like social media where the issues arise. I think it's more than that. I think it's multifaceted. I think it's, you know, partially like a lot of our families, or like Tish said, are broken homes. And, you know, oftentimes men and women don't grow up with the father. So that role of a father there is unknown, so you just make it up based on social media or what's in your head, and not truly knowing what having a husband requires or having a wife requires. I think we don't know that because of our situation in our community with, you know, a lot of baby mamas and stuff like that, and not having a man around. So I think that causes a lot of the confusion of what you should be requiring from a man, because you don't know, because you ain't never had one in there, and it's just different than it used to be. I mean, I grew up with my mom and dad both in the home, so, and, you know, my dad he paid most of the bills and stuff like that. My mom would pay bills, so my mom always worked, but, you know, my dad made most of the money, so he paid most of the bills and stuff like that, and you know,
but where she didn't contribute monetarily, she contributed in child care, meals, taking care of the house, you know, making sure that the money that he did bring in went back out to where it was supposed to go.
Yeah, it's still a huge job.
It's still
right. Even if you don't work and you're just a stay-at-home wife or mother, that's a huge job.
Homemaker is you know, people you know, because people judge that like, oh, all they do is stay at home. Like, but do you know what it's like to run an entire household? You know, you have to keep it clean. You have to, you know, meals, grocery shop. You know, hell, something breaks, you have to be the one responsible for making sure that gets fixed.
Yeah,
I think the issue comes in where we know people who that's all they do is a stay-at-home wife, but they don't do nothing.
Right. They just literally just at home.
But I wonder if they ever had that conversation with that person beforehand.
That we don't know.
Even now, if they're having that conversation.
And I guarantee, the problem that probably comes in a lot of times is now you're already fully vested in. Y'all are married. Y'all down the line. It's hard to have those conversations, you know, after the fact, you know, like, because what happens if y'all get into a major disagreement on how y'all want to do it? She says, look, I'm not going to work and I'm not cleaning up this damn house. Now, what are you going to do? Divorce and things like that. So those are tough.
And
that's not the same.
But that's what
people get divorced.
And it does.
Yeah, it happens like that.
And then she get half of that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For nothing. Like, you didn't even help maintain
the conversations you should have beforehand. I knew the person.
And that's why I do think that it is very, very important to, like you guys said, y'all had money shouldn't be a uncomfortable conversation, but we already know it is, especially in our community. You know, the black community, we will always talk, keep your finances secret. You know, that's not something you spread. That's not something you tell everybody. You know, but
keep it secret within your home.
Yeah, and I do believe that.
Out there to the world.
Right now, you don't go and broadcast to the world that you make, you know, $90,000 a year. But when you're getting serious with somebody, because money does play a part in a relationship and in a marriage and maintaining a life. Now, of course, it doesn't play every part. So, but you do have to have those conversations, you know. So, now, as far as
before you go ahead. I guess so. My question to y'all is: do you think we'll eventually get it right? Not saying us,
just black culture.
Yeah, black culture. Yeah. I mean, do you think eventually?
I think when we start actually getting back to working together instead of working against each other, we can get it together. The problem is we're stronger together than apart, but everybody has done everything to take us apart.
Right.
When we actually work together, we could get a whole empire. Like, I told Terrell that I was like, I wish I knew some good people that would actually go in to buy some land. Yeah. We could buy some land together and go build our own houses and have our own little community. Right. But I don't know enough black people that would do that. They look at me like, I'm not going to share that responsibility with you. I'm like, well, then shit. Like,
and like I said, that's because it goes back to the same adage that as a race, we are naturally competitive with one another. So the fact that you came up with that idea, I'm not going to go in on that because first of all, it wasn't my idea, and we start thinking. We as a coach, we really do start thinking like this because she came up with the idea. Oh, she gonna think she run things. Right. Now that's not to say that a lot of times with us black people, we think because we came up with the idea, even though it's virtually equitable across the board between all partners. Oh, because it was my idea, I run the shit. It's my show, So I think we will naturally get there when, as a race, we learn to stop competing with one another. And we're going to have to start learning how to block out outside influences because it's not just us that got us here. It's outside influences that have pit us against one another because that's how they were able to take over us as a people.
Right.
Put us. First off, you put them against each other. They're not going to fight us. They're too busy fighting each other. So I do think that as a community and as a race, we'll get there. But like I said, the first thing we do have to do is we literally have to get rid of this whole my spouse, especially my spouse, is not my competition. That's my partner.
Like people, women always say they want to do to make all this money. Like 10% of people make 6 figures. Like it's gonna be a limited pool of men who make 6 figures. Like most men are middle class, and like I think a lot of times like regular Joe middle class dudes get looked over because they ain't balling making all this money.
You gotta think about it. If you make 50, I make 50. We make
right.
6 figures.
Exactly.
How we put that thing together and build this empire.
It's only 10% of those men making. That's men. That ain't just black men.
Right.
That's men. So the pool is very small that you're gonna find a dude that makes that money. So you might have to relax your standards a little bit,
or think about it in the sense that, well, you know what? At least if he's able to take care of himself and I can take care of myself, guess what happens when we put these two things together?
Right.
Now we, like she said, now we make 6 figures.
Yeah, because I mean, if you have that mentality thinking that it's all me, and you go into and try to get married, it's not gonna work. Yeah. So I mean, it takes two. So
one of the things that when I hear this, and I always think about the 2 individuals come to my mind. Charlemagne, the God, he made a point about his wife believed in him when he didn't have anything, and she stood by him through everything until he made it up to And I think they was having a conversation about prenuptials and stuff. He said, why would I do a prenuptial? She was with me when I had nothing. So I feel like, there is some instances of where black couples do support each other
and build together.
Just another one is Ryan Coogler, the one who did the Black Panther. His wife, the same thing. She believed in him when he was just, making these little films. He's like, you're going to make it one day. She kept, breathing that life into him and saying, okay, you're going to do it. And you see what happens. There's like they're saying, if you get, the right person with you and they breathe that life into you, and believe in you, the sky's the limit.
Right. And you know what?
I'm your barbecue business is going to be.
You know what?
Like I told him when he sits there and finishes through the state, let's go in and buy a food truck. And you go ahead and do that. And I'll make sure I have a job to carry the health insurance. You do your business. I got the health insurance. We good to go.
And see, and that's an awesome thing to have. Like, y'all both support one another and y'all uplift each other, and that's what a marriage should be about.
It's the buy-in, versus somebody saying, "Oh, you can't do that."
Right.
Oh, look, well, if it don't work out, I'm not about to support your black guy. But that happens a lot in our culture. Like, you don't have that partner, and it has to be a two-way street. Men a lot of times want women to buy into their stuff, but do you buy into hers? She has dreams of her own too. Are you buying into those as well?
And I'm gonna brag about my wife a little bit because y'all been bragging. But no, I mean, real talk. I mean, what they said, they're speaking a lot of facts. I mean, for me, when I first started off and graduated from college or whatnot, I was working at GameStop, bringing home like $7-8 like an hour or whatever. Marissa was working at Wake Med. She was like holding down, and I did what I could. If I wasn't able to take care of like the heavier bills, I would take care of other things. So eventually, when now it's to the point where I'm working at Disney, she's working at Blue Cross. I mean, we're able to help each other out or whatnot. So, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think a lot of men and women don't understand the power of having a good woman behind you. I think women don't know that either. I think men take it for granted often, but I think a lot of women don't know it either. And like how much you can inspire a man to be better,
right? For the long hauls, people get so quick to. what's right now. What I want right now. This.
The instant gratification.
Instant. But the more there's more gratification and there's more, how do you say it? It's more love into it if you do it if you with them from when they had nothing.
Right.
To going when they have something,
or even if they have something and you build on it and make it better.
You
just never know.
Yeah, if you're building something, it's a lot more gratifying than just having it right then and then just staying stagnant with it.
Because I even said this previous like podcast I'll make it quick podcast episode. Like for me, I was at the point one time where I had to withdraw money from my checking account that I didn't have. And I mean, we were kind of living like that, and she was like trying to support. And I mean, she spoke life into my situation, and I spoke life into hers. And I mean, now we're to the point where, you know, we're good. We don't have to worry about living like that anymore. But it's all about uplifting one another. So I mean, that's what I got to say on that. Absolutely.
So as we get ready to close out, you know, we you know, one of the main things we did discuss is, you know, it's like splitting financials and, you know, how that's divided up, and, you know, and not only just how you split things up, but the view of a man in a situation, whether, you know, is he more of a man if he pays more of the bills, or is he less of a man if he, you know, if he doesn't pay all the bills, or you know, or if he only pays half. Like I said, one of the things that came up was if a man only pays half the bills, he's a roommate, you know. So in closing out, you know, is a man a provider if he only pays half the bills?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he is. If he's able to help in other ways instead of just like, you know, having all the money or being able to take care of everything, then yeah. If he's able to handle his responsibility, or the woman's able to handle her responsibility while trying to help out paying some bills, then yeah, most definitely.
Definitely.
I agree what you said, because it's like a, you know, catch-22. If he's paying all the bills, is the woman a child? Yeah. Is that a dependent? So it's the same, you know, catch-22 from that standpoint. So me, it's like, yes, you are a provider. You are providing into the home it's usually more than financial that you're actually providing into a home.
Right.
And it should be if you are in a successful relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
That's kind of like what we talked about when we talked about it a while back. Exactly what she said. I think it's just like depends on the point of view of the people in the relationship.
Yeah.
I guess you just need to find you a woman or a man who shares the view of what it should be. Whether he pays everything, whether he pays half, I mean, you have to, again, have that conversation, and both parties have to be satisfied with the decision that comes at the end of that conversation. Absolutely.
And I agree. I mean, I don't really have too much to add on that. I think it depends on the situation. I think it depends on the couple. And you still have to discuss this ahead of time. Now, if you discuss this ahead of time and say, hey, we're going to do 50-50, then you cannot say, oh, he's not a provider still, because being a provider is more than just money. You know, it's security, it's stability, it's confidence, it's, you know, it's the overall mentality of protecting your family and things like that. That's a provider. You know, and like I said, it's not just money. And on the same token, a man could bring 100,000 into the house and not be a provider. He's just a money maker at that point. If he's not bringing anything else, he's unstable, he's abusive, he's not a protector, he doesn't do anything but just bring money in the house. That does not make him a provider. It makes him a contributor in a monetary sense, and that's it. All right, guys, it's been another episode of the After 29 podcast. Until next time, peace.